I had a swing. A simple wooden swing hanging from the old oak tree in the middle of my front lawn. Nothing fancy, just rope, wood, and some good old creaky charm. I originally put it up for myself, but of course the neighborhood kids adopted it. Every afternoon, they'd come laughing, barefoot, yelling, taking turns, and occasionally getting scolded by their moms for not wearing shoes. I didn't mind. It gave the place some life. Welcome to Prodigy Chronicles. Make sure to like, subscribe, and brace yourself for top-tier suburban drama. So, one day, I took the swing down. Not because I hated children, joy, or trees. I was just redoing the landscaping, planting a vegetable bed, and figured it was time for the swing to retire. I didn't expect it to spark a full-blown suburban uprising. Cheryl, yes, that Cheryl, came out of her house like I'd just set the flag on fire. "Where's the swing?" she shouted, clutching her lemon water like it was a gavel. I calmly said, "It was mine." I took it down. She gasped like I'd confessed to arson. "You can't just remove community property like that," she shrieked. Community property? It was on my lawn, bought with my money, hung from my tree. Apparently, because the neighborhood kids enjoyed it, it had magically transformed into sacred public infrastructure. She stormed off, muttering about bylaws and something she called neighborhood spirit. I thought she'd cool off. Nope. The next day, a group of kids walked by, looked me dead in the eye, and said, together, "We miss the swing." One even dropped a hand-drawn picture of it on my porch, like it was a memorial. Cheryl had turned them into a grief cult. Soon, parents started giving me dirty looks at the mailbox. And then, it escalated. Saturday afternoon. Chanting. I looked outside. There they were. Cheryl, 6 kids, 2 parents, and 1 poor poodle, holding signs like, "Bring our swing back," "Down with the swing thief." They were pacing my front lawn like it was Capitol Hill. I blinked, and I knew. If Cheryl wanted drama, she'd get front row seats to a legal one. But she didn't stop. Day 2. Chanting with tambourines. Day 3. Sidewalk chalk graffiti. Swing lives matter. Day 4. Someone left a baby swing in my driveway with a note. "This is what you stole from us." She even made flyers, with a QR code, that linked to a petition. A petition, for me, to reinstall a swing I owned on my own property. She called the whole thing Swinggate. That's when I realized I wasn't just dealing with a neighbor. I was up against a suburban cult leader. I caught a little boy taping a sign to my mailbox. He whispered, "She told me you hate happiness." I had become the Grinch of the cul-de-sac. Cheryl went door to door with her version of events, claiming I was a bitter recluse targeting childhood joy. I overheard one dad mutter, "It's just a swing, not the Lincoln Memorial." Cheryl hissed at him, called him a traitor. That was it. I called my lawyer. We drafted a formal complaint for trespassing, harassment, and public nuisance. I provided video footage of the protest, Cheryl's speeches, complete with megaphone, and even decibel readings showing the noise had crossed legal limits, especially during naptime hours. The HOA ignored it. Of course, Cheryl was the HOA. So, I filed the complaint directly with the court. Cheryl responded by doubling down. She had matching protest t-shirts made. Hers said, "Swing Defender." The kids wore, "Victim of Swing Theft." One mom told me her daughter cried when she saw the swing was gone. I wanted to say, "Your kid cries over microwave peas too." But I held back. When the court date was announced, Cheryl bragged she'd finally hold me accountable. She even handed out printed invites to neighbors like it was a birthday party. The joke was going to be on her. Court day arrived and Cheryl showed up like she was auditioning for a legal drama. White blouse ironed stiff, oversized sunglasses and, because she's Cheryl, a neck brace. She told the clerk she was under emotional stress from the trauma of losing a community swing. I genuinely thought I was being pranked. Her evidence folder was a gold mine of absurdity. Crayon drawings labeled "Swing Heaven" from local kids. A handwritten petition signed mostly by 3rd graders, and my personal favorite, a photo of her poodle looking sad under my tree stump. She called it Exhibit C, Loss of Joy. Meanwhile, My lawyer and I came locked and loaded. We had security footage of Cheryl trespassing, shouting into a megaphone on my lawn, and even planting a replacement swing without permission. We had video of the full-blown sidewalk protest, complete with kids chanting and banging on plastic buckets like a toddler drumline. We even had decibel readings proving she violated local noise ordinances. Cheryl gave her opening remarks with the flair of a soap opera villain. She told the judge I had stripped the community of hope and called the swing a beacon of unity. The judge blinked and said, "It was a swing." Cheryl replied, dead serious, "It was the swing." My lawyer calmly laid out the facts. The swing was on private property, legally installed and legally removed. Cheryl had no legal claim, no HOA clause to stand on, and no right to harass, trespass, or organize mini-riots on my lawn. The final nail? We showed a clip of Cheryl yelling, "He'll regret this if the swing doesn't come back," right before tossing a protest sign into my bushes. The judge paused the video, looked directly at her and said, "Ma'am, that sounds like a threat." Cheryl fumbled, claiming it was a figure of speech. The judge wasn't buying it. He leaned back, sighed, and said, "Miss Cheryl, your actions were unlawful and frankly absurd. I am ordering you to pay Mr. Reynolds $15,000 in damages for trespassing, harassment, and legal fees." Cheryl's jaw practically unhinged. She tried to object, but the judge had already moved on to the next case. Meanwhile, I just sat there quietly, enjoying my victory. Cheryl was never the same after the courtroom smackdown. Gone was the megaphone. Gone were the chants, the flyers, the Swing Lives Matter chalk art. She slinked around the neighborhood like a ghost in capri pants, sunglasses always on, head low, like the HOA walk of shame. I, Jake Miller, walked taller than ever, $15,000 taller to be exact. Still, I wasn't about to let her slither away without a little souvenir to remember me by. I took part of the settlement and hired a landscaper, not just to make my yard pretty, but to make a statement. The old swing spot? I turned it into a garden bed shaped like a courtroom gavel. No joke. Stone-bordered, raised above the grass, with deep red cannas in the head and lavender in the handle. Right in the center, I placed a polished wooden sign that said, "This property, found not guilty, case closed, no appeals from Cheryl's allowed." It faced directly toward her house, like a trophy. Every time she opened her blinds, it stared her down. Neighbors started noticing. One dad chuckled and said, "Bold move." Another whispered, "Finally, someone shut her up." Someone even left a bottle of wine on my porch with a note, "For handling Swinggate like a champ." Cheryl tried to file an HOA complaint about the sign. But guess what? I'd reviewed the rulebook. There was no policy against decorative signage under 3 feet tall. And after the court ruling, she'd lost all her HOA clout anyway. Rumor had it the board held an emergency vote and quietly asked her to resign to preserve the association's image. She did, not gracefully. I heard she told people she was targeted by a petty man with a vendetta and too much time. Which was hilarious, because she literally organized a 4-day protest over a tree swing. The kids eventually stopped asking about the swing. They moved on. One even knocked on my door and asked if I could build them a treehouse. I said, "No, of course not." Lesson learned. Now, when I mow my lawn, I pass that flower bed and grin. Not because I won, but because Cheryl finally learned the one truth about HOA wars. Don't start swinging unless you're ready to fall. The end. Please like and subscribe for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think Cheryl got what she deserved? Comment below.